I tried 200 chemistry apps, so you don't have to. That was it for the clickbait. Welcome back to the Organic Chemistry Reaction app Devlog. This devlog journals my efforts to make the Organic Chemistry Reaction app OCRA. This app is currently available on itch.io and on Google Play. If you'd like to check them out, here's some QR codes and some links are in the description as well. I mentioned in the last devlog that I'm going to be giving a poster presentation at the Canadian Chemistry Conference this year. So I'm shifting my focus away from just regular app design and updates, and instead I'm going to focus on telling the story that I want to tell with my poster. So that's what the next few devlogs are going to be like. So yeah, here's basically what I propose. First, chemists and chemistry in general can benefit from properly leveraging modern personal devices. I think this is a very uncontroversial statement, and it's not really something new. People have been doing stuff proposing using phones for a variety of reasons, not just in chemistry, but everywhere. It's also kind of a vague statement since there's a lot of possible uses for cell phones. You can use it to do chemistry, you can use it to learn chemistry, you can use it to visualize, whatever. The area I'm specifically talking about is practicing your chemistry knowledge, so it's the practice. So yeah, technology can be a benefit, but in my opinion, the current apps that are available for chemistry, and again, mostly the practicing apps, in my opinion, they're missing the marks on what a chemistry app should be. And then I propose to rectify this situation by making an app that actually is what a chemistry app should be. Now, the first statement, as I said, is pretty uncontroversial. And the third statement is just me doing things. So my work will basically have to be the proof that this is true. I don't know. But it's actually my second claim that needs some support. And so some data that demonstrates, actually what is available and why it's missing the mark. And so I'm going to start there, I guess. So what I did, basically, is some market landscaping. I searched the Google Play Store for chemistry, and then I downloaded every free app that it gave me. Yeah, only the free ones. I'm not going to pay $2.50 for Ultimate Periodic Table. Thank you very much. So yeah, just the free ones. And then I used all of them. I actually went into the app. I didn't just read the title and it says Organic Chemistry Textbook. I opened it to make sure it was an organic chemistry textbook. And then I categorized them based on, what I saw. So yeah, the first category is notes/textbooks, which are that. Their detailed notes are just straight up textbooks formatted for your phone, and actually some of them aren't even formatted for your phone. They're just like PDF documents. The second category is references. These are apps that are intended for people to use as handy references when they're needed. They tend to just be pictures of periodic tables mostly, actually. But some of them are also dictionaries of chemistry terms and some mathematical equations, some chemical reactions lists, things like that. Stuff that you might just look up if you need a quick reminder of something. The third category was practice. These apps were intended for people to practice their knowledge of chemistry concepts. And then there was also some games, which were chemistry themed, but not actually chemistry. So an example of this would be like the Little Alchemy style of games, where you start with earth and wind and water and fire, and then you combine them to make other things, and combine those to make other things, and so on and so forth until you've made everything. So they're chemistry related, but they're not chemistry, right? They're games. So that's different than a practice thing, which actually is chemistry, but also kind of a game. Next category, lectures. Just videos of lectures as far as I can tell. There were 9 of these, but I think they might have all been the same app, just using different names and different store listings to help them get visibility and get downloads. So I'm a bit cynical about those ones. And then after that is other. And so other includes a bunch of things. There are chemistry apps that didn't really fit into the categories that I made. One of them was a reaction simulator, for example. There is the CNE News app. A bunch of them were also tools, like a molar mass calculator or like a timer for your reactions. or an app that lets you draw chemical structures. So tools, news, simulations, just other things, I guess. And then there's excluded is the last category. These apps I excluded from my data set after downloading them. So the puzzles that I have to pay for were excluded before I added them to the data set, whereas these ones are excluded after I added them to the data set. Most of these apps were in languages that I don't understand, so I felt it would be unfair for me to categorize them, even if sometimes it was pretty clear what the apps were. So like one example is an app had the title in English, Chemistry Multiple Choice Questions Hindi. And then you open the app and it's in Hindi, and it looks like multiple choice questions for you to practice. So I kind of already know what it is, but technically I don't know how to use it, and so I'm just going to exclude it from the database because I don't speak Hindi. Other apps were excluded because after you open them, you had to register an account and log in. So just like how I'm not going to pay $2.50 for a picture of a periodic table, I'm also not going to be giving my email address to tutoring companies so that they can spam me. I excluded those two. Yeah, so that's the excluded category. This is an overview of what I found, and there's no judgment from me based on what category an app might be in. But the question is, who's using the apps? The notes/textbook apps are quite clearly targeting students in classes who are studying for exams so that they can pass the class and then delete the app, right? Nobody's using these notebooks for anything other than studying, essentially. And then when they're done studying, it's gone. That's 100% of those apps. And the lecture apps are the same. It's just people trying to, pass a class so that they can forget about it. The references column is unfortunately populated mostly by periodic tables, which are not nearly as useful as people would like you to think. Speaking as a real chemist who has studied and worked in chemistry for 15 years, I almost never need to look at a periodic table. And that's not because I've memorized it, but because it's just not useful. You don't need one. So a lot of these reference ones are periodic tables. But the reference category does have some nice apps, though, that can actually be helpful. An example of this is the Reaction Flash app, which is a database of different types of chemical reactions for synthetic organic chemists. And then they can look them up if they need to see what type of possibilities they can get to go from their starting material to their product, or what starting material they can go with to get the products they want. I can see some of those references being used by actual chemists in an actual chemistry environment. Games are games, not chemistry. So the audience is not actually people who are interested in chemistry. The audience is more general, I guess. And since my app is kind of a practice app, the practice category is more what I want to focus on, and I'll discuss that more in detail on the next slide. Yeah, so my app is supposed to be a practice app, and so it's most appropriate to compare it to the other practice apps, not to like a textbook. So I further divided the practice category into subcategories of, I guess, the style of practice. And so as you can see, the vast majority of practice apps are basically multiple choice question quizzes. There were also 3 apps that were just ripping textbook questions and having them as like text, or having the text as like images in the app. They're just pictures of textbooks, essentially. And then one of them was flashcards. And that actually surprised me a bit. I thought there would be more flashcard apps. But regardless, my problem with all 3 of these practice styles is, again, the intended audience. People don't play these apps because they like chemistry and they like exploring chemistry concepts. They're using the app because they're studying for an exam, and then as soon as they pass that exam, they're going to delete the app because they don't want to have anything to do with it, right? 3 other practice apps were basically just memorizing the periodic table and then putting the element on the right spot in the table, or unscrambling letters from the names of elements. So the name lutetium is scrambled and you just have to unscramble it. It's, I don't know, not very impressive content as far as I can tell. Anyway, the one singular app on the chart is there. It says mechanisms that approaches what I want. The app is called Chemistry Lab, and it teaches chemistry concepts, but then also lets you practice them. And the practice is in the form of reaction mechanisms when the concept is reaction mechanisms, of course. So that's just like my app. Chemistry Lab is great. I love it. But unfortunately, it isn't designed to scale. There are only a few mechanism puzzles, and they're designed mostly to reinforce the learning part of the app. So it's a lot of the focus is on learning, but there's this practice in here. But because there's not a lot of puzzles, you can finish all of them in a single sitting, and then you're kind of done with it. So there's not a good reason to come back to it for practice. Yeah, it is worth noting that in this data set, I'm not excluding my own app. It's just that it didn't even show up when I searched for chemistry in the Play Store. So I guess it was excluded not by me, but by Google. Sad face. I also do want to give a shout out to the app Chemical Detectives, which is a multiple choice app, but the questions weren't generic study materials, I guess. They were structure elucidation problems. The app would give you a carbon NMR, a proton NMR, IR, mass spectra, and elemental analysis data as well. And then they would just ask you, what's the chemical? And structure elucidation is a real chemistry activity that real chemists do daily, and it can be fun. It can be a fun puzzle. So, even though this is a multiple choice type app, the content was real chemistry and not classroom style, I'm just trying to pass this test so I can forget about it type questions. So yeah, from this data, what I can say is try out the Chemistry Lab and try out Chemical Detectives. I thought they were fun. That was the data for apps that I got when I searched for chemistry. But what if I searched for organic chemistry instead? This data set actually has a lot of overlap with the previous one, but it does have a bunch of new entries as well, including my app. Yay. There are differences in the distributions, as you can see. Notes and textbooks still dominate, but the number of practice apps has increased significantly, and the number of reference apps has decreased significantly. Maybe all those periodic tables, or not all of them, but some of them got filtered out. Also fun note is that when I did this search, it also included 2 apps that were for organic skincare stores, like lotions, and 1 app that was a hiking app. So I guess the organic part of the search was pulling its weight there in terms of changing the data set. And it also notices that we're reaching the end of chemistry and you start pulling out non-chemistry apps. Yeah. So yeah, going to do the same subcategories here as last time. And these ones change somewhat as well. Now there are even more multiple choice quizzes and even more textbook questions and still that one flashcard thing. So, going from this one or this one, it's all more of the same. It's all focused on passing your class and then forgetting about it, right? But yeah, hey, Chemistry Lab is still there. And now my app is on the list too. So mechanisms get that extra little bump. Chemical Detective is also still present, still lumped in with those multiple choice categories. So yeah, that's the market landscape, I guess. What did I find? Basically, I found that most apps and almost every practice app was focused on one thing: exam preparation. Studying for your quiz so you can pass your test, so you can delete the app so you can forget about chemistry, right? The intended use of these things is for students, not for chemists, to download them so that when they study and then they can do better, and then they get to delete the app at the end because they want nothing to do with the chemistry class. They just want to have it done. So these apps are representative of what like a classroom is. It's not representative of what real chemistry is. And in that way, it's somewhat detrimental to the perception of chemistry as a discipline, Where are the apps for chemists, for the people who enjoy chemistry, for people who want to explore and engage with chemistry theory. Where are those apps? I could only find 3. Chemistry Lab, Chemical Detective, and Organic Chemistry Reaction App. And I think the only one of those that is designed to scale so that the app stays fresh for longer periods of time so that people will continue to come back to it is my app, is OCRA. So that's the pitch. That may have been a little bit ranty, and there's no way I'm including all of that in my poster, but thanks for listening, I guess. The data does show a large overrepresentation of multiple choice quizzes and exam preparation material. And so that sets the stage nicely for me to describe a better way to do things, something that will appeal to chemists and will appeal to people, or will demonstrate the appeal of chemistry to people rather than just, I have to do all these quizzes, I have to answer all of these questions. So yeah, that's staging, the stage nicely for the next part of my poster, and I'll cover the next part of my poster next time on Dragon Ball Z.